I'm delighted to be joined by UFC Middleweight Andre Petroski today. Hello, Andre. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here, brother. How are you feeling about your upcoming fight against Nick Maximov this May 14 at UFC on ESPN 36?
Good, man. I'm excited. I just kind of want to get to the fight, It's good because this is my last two fights. I didn't have much of a camp. I took the last one on, 2 weeks notice. And then the one before that was 10 days. So it's good to have a camp, but at the same time, like I'm getting impatient. Like I want to fight,
Yeah, you have mentioned in the past that you want to fight as much as possible. And I feel like we can totally see that, you're taking fights on short-term notices. So is it because you mentioned you don't particularly save money very well? So what are some of the extravagant purchases that you've done over the years?
What was the question?
What are some of the extravagant purchases that you've spent your money on? Like something that you bought with?
I just got a Wrangler. I actually just took the top off of it, but it's like just getting warm in Philly. It's still a little cold, but yeah, but I'm excited for the summer. I just got a Wrangler.
Oh, sounds great. Yeah, just take it out. So you and Maximo, right? You both are similar in some ways, especially your training camps, your associations, right? He's with Nick Diaz, you're with Renzo Gracie in Philly. How do you see the fight going with the two Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu styles coming in, and of course your background in wrestling and karate?
Yeah, I think that he's going to feel a lot of pressure on the feet. I don't think he's very comfortable in the striking, and I think he's going to force the grappling, and he's just going to be one step behind. I think that his wrestling is not like the cleanest. He shoots a lot with his head down, and it's going to get him in trouble.
Yeah. So he is still undefeated. He has fought 8 times so far. Do you feel like you will hand him his first loss? And does that play any role mentally? Does it challenge you mentally that he has that 0 right now, or is it just, how do you feel about that?
I mean, honestly, I'm more excited than anything, just to be the guy that give him his first loss. But yeah, I mean, I think that they really built him up. They brought him up. He hasn't fought he hasn't fought the toughest of competition. They've give him a favorable matchup so far. But he's been active. Like he fights a lot. He's very, very active, fights very often. His first 2 opponents weren't necessarily slouches for sure. So it's a good matchup. I mean, we're fighting because I asked for it. I requested Maximov as my next opponent, and they accepted it. So obviously I liked what I saw as far as an opponent.
So what was it about Maximov that made you want him for your next fight?
I just want to prove really that I'm the best wrestler in the division. I'm the best grappler in the middleweight division. And I saw him, out wrestling a lot of these guys. And I was like, watching him, I'm like, dude, I'm a better wrestler than this dude. Like, I'm a better grappler. My jiu-jitsu is better. My submissions are better. Like, I'm better than this dude. Yeah,
because, speaking on your jiu-jitsu and your abilities there, you have 3 submissions, 4 knockouts. So, you even managed to secure your 100% finish rate in your last fight with just 14 seconds, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
When you got that over. It's exciting, man. It's exciting to see you fight. So when you touch on the topic of being the best wrestler in middleweight, and I did see your Insta story, of course, today, where other people were reposting it too, the best middleweight wrestler in the middleweight division right now.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you see that a lot with Kamaru Usman, with Colby Covington, all these other wrestlers, that wrestlers are really taking on a role of their own in the sport these days?
Yeah, I mean, look, so even from the beginning, from UFC 1, we saw that wrestling has always been the best base for fighting. Even the wrestlers that don't even wrestle in their fights, like Justin Gaethje and even Usman doesn't really wrestle as much anymore, but they still have that base and that mentality that they translate into striking and become extremely effective.
Right, the mentality of just being
a champion, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much that people learn just from that, going through that curriculum, that program, being brought up as a wrestler, where like you see that with Colby Covington, right? He doesn't get one takedown, he's gonna come after you again. So
Yeah, absolutely.
and you'll be fighting at the UFC Apex Center for this one. You have also fought in Abu Dhabi in front of that crowd. What was the experience like fighting over there, and how different would you say is the atmosphere over there and here in the United States?
So I liked fighting at the Apex at first. Like this will be my fourth fight at the Apex. Abu Dhabi was a nice change. Like it was a good switch up. It was a different experience. Like the whole energy was different, even though it didn't end up being a pay-per-view card. It was still, like, for argument's sake, a pay-per-view card. It wasn't a fight night. And it was just different. That was a very memorable experience, like one that I will always remember. You know, ideally, I would rather be on a pay-per-view card, but there is benefits of being at the Apex, you know, like I want bonuses. Like I want money. I want to make money. So like being on the card that I see, like when I look at the fights on my card on the event, like I'm like, yeah, 100%. Our fight is fight of the night material. Like that's what I see. You know what I mean? So although it's like, it is cool to be on the big pay-per-view cards with the big stars, like it at the same time, like there's benefits of being on the smaller fight night cards.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And if I may ask, based off of that, how do you feel about fighter pay? And that's been a hot disputed topic recently. And Antonio Carlos, he came out recently and he said that he made more money in the PFL than he did in the UFC after a 13-fight career. Now, of course, I imagine a lot of that has to do with him winning the $1 million tournament. But besides that, he did make some very good points on how even the winner of the Ultimate Fighters get a 10-fight contract. And then after 5 fights, your value has gone way up, but you're still stuck on the same deal. How do you feel going into these kind of contracts and negotiations?
My message to the UFC is if I'm talking to Dana White, if I'm sitting across the table at Dana White, like I'm not asking for more money. I'm not asking for handouts. I want more fights. Keep me busy, please. Like I'm not asking to make, you know, like $100,000 a fight. Like I just want to stay busy. Like keep me active, give me fights every other month. Like that's what I want. You know what I mean? I know that the fight pay will increase. I know that I'll make more money. I know that I'll prove my worth and I'll show. Like every time they've called me on short notice, I said yes every time. 3 times they called me on 10 days notice, 2 weeks notice, and 3 weeks notice. And every time I said yes. I said 100%. I don't even have to ask my coaches, like, I'm here. You know what I mean? So like I've proven that, like, if you call me, I will step forward. So I'm not asking for no free handouts. It's just continue to call me. Like keep me in mind.
Yeah, and you have kind of become that trusted figure for the promotion. It'll certainly go a long way, I imagine, of course. Moving on from that, you have also came into the sport, or the UFC, the organization specifically, in a very interesting manner, where you were one of the stars of The Ultimate Fighter Season 29, returning on Brian Ortega's team. How do you feel like that experience enriched you as a fighter?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly kickstarted my career. Like it was very, very similar to what I was talking about earlier, where I fought 4 times in 6 months and then I was laid off. Like, so my first 5 fights of my pro career were in like a matter of like 14 to 16 months, right? So I fought back to back to back and I was hurt and I continued to fight. And like, I didn't have training camps. I just continued to fight. And then quarantine hit. And I couldn't get a fight like forever. Like the promotion that I was fighting for, like Philly wouldn't let them sanction fights. Like it was hard for me to get, no one was putting on fights. If you weren't in the UFC, it was like very difficult. So I sat for a long time and I only had 1 fight in the next, like in like that whole like year to maybe 14 months. So I fought like 5 times in 14 months and then I fought once in 14 months. So, like the point of my story, the point is that like I had a tough time getting fights for a while, and the Ultimate Fighter really if it wasn't for the Ultimate Fighter, like I wouldn't have fought 4 times in 6 months. So I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity and what it did for my career.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Let me ask you this. You go into these fights on such short notices. Are you always in shape like throughout the year? Or what's your training camp like, especially when it comes to cutting weight and things like that?
As far as cutting weight, it's never been an issue. I've been cutting weight since literally I was like 4th grade. You know what I mean? Like I've been doing this my whole life. I got it down to a science. I know what is required as far as making weight goes. As far as so my last 2 fights were the short notice fights. I had the 10-day notice and the 2-week notice. But the thing was, like, when you're fighting every other month, like there's no time to get out of shape. You never get fat. You're always training. Like, so I was in a good rhythm and I was in a really good flow when you're fighting that often. And competition, you get comfortable with competition because you're doing it so much. And that's where you really find a groove and you start like really like making progress and showing like your capabilities. So that's kind of like another reason why I asked the UFC to keep me as busy as possible.
Makes sense. Who would you like to fight after Nick?
Look, in respect to my opponent, like that's where my focus is right now. I'm not gonna, there's a time and a place for calling out new opponents, but right now my focus is Nick Maximov, and I'm not gonna comment further as far as who I would like after that.
Absolutely understood. What are your future aspirations for the rest of the year ahead? And not only in terms of fighting or the opponent, but what else are you looking at over the next 2 years? Are you looking to be
champion? That's the goal. That's why I got into this sport, is to be the best. I've always strived to be the best in everything I've done since I was wrestling, since I was a little kid. Like I want to be the best. I want to fight for a title. I want to be the best in the division.
right? And you have a very dominant champion right now in Israel Adesanya. What are your thoughts on him overlapping the division and beating guys twice at this point?
I'm personally, I'm a fan. Like I love watching him. I love watching his feints and the way he sets up his strikes and sets traps. Like that shit's like that stuff's very entertaining to me. Like it's very interesting. Also, like I think that we've seen, especially with the fight with Jan, is like the guy that's going to beat him is going to out wrestle him. Like the way to beat Adesanya, like the blueprint was given, right? He's going to lose to like the wrestling style is one that he struggles with the most. And so, if you're able to exploit that, his weaknesses with a very strong wrestling base, a la what I'm good at, like that's what I'm looking at.
Is there a part of you that kind of wishes that we got to see that dream fight between Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya, just to see that matchup of Adesanya against a good wrestler?
Yeah, I think that's a terrific stylistic matchup for sure. Yeah, for sure. That's a great matchup. That's one I would definitely tune in to see.
Yeah, I wish it would happen, but it doesn't look like it will. What do you do in your free time that makes you happy?
I have a beautiful daughter. She's going to be 3 in August. So I try to spend as much time with her as possible. But, I try to, I love lifting weights. Like I'm an exercise guy. I like lifting weights. I just got a new road bike. Going to start trying to put as many miles as I can in on the road bike. So, I try to do things that are as conducive to being a world champion as possible.
Right.
I did get the Oculus, the virtual reality, the goggles, and I am kind of obsessed with them right now. They're pretty cool.
What do you use them for right now? Are you playing video games or watching something?
So I have like the app. It's called Supernatural, and there's like different boxing apps on it.
No
way. So you go to like different parts of the world, and they'll give you like an instructor, and you do like there's different like boxing games on there. It's pretty cool, man. I was really impressed by it. And then I'll also do the meditation apps. There's an app called Trip. It's TRIPP. And they have all different types of meditations. Like, I mean, dude, like millions, and you could go to all different places. Like, freaking mushroom land, and you do meditations there. You're sitting on a mushroom and you do like, dude, they're cool, man. I really like the Oculus. I'm a big fan.
Oculus and Trip, yeah, both of those. Yeah. So what's your official prediction for the fight?
For my fight?
Yes.
Early submission, late, mid first round or early second round.
Oh, mid first or early second, yeah, because your finishes first 2 rounds, right? Those are your rounds where you get those finishes. Now, before I let you go, Andre, I would like to give you this opportunity to shout out any sponsors, teammates, or anyone else you would like to.
Yeah, everyone, dude, tune in to watch my team, Daniel Gracie and Marquez MMA. Like, we're 13-0 in the UFC. We got 8 finishes. Of the 13 fights, we have 8 finishes. Like, our team's killing it. It's me, Jeremiah Wells, Sean Brady, Pat Sabatini, and my teammate Joey Pfeiffer is going to fight on the Contender Series in July. We have a lot of really tough kids coming up. Like, tune in and check our team out, man. Like, I'm telling you, we're the best team. I can't name one other team in the UFC that's 13-0 right now. Like, I can't name one other team. I don't know why we're not being nominated for Team of the Year. Like, you guys got to tune in.
Well, it's been wonderful to have you here, Andre, with us. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us here at LowKick MMA. And I hope you have a great rest of your day ahead.
Thanks for having me.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.